Before this meeting, in our pre-meeting, Dr. Pope, you had made a comment that...
Mr. Mayor, I believe that it would be appropriate for us to suspend the rules tonight on 2011-165 and have it read again and make a final vote.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we suspend the rules this evening under 2011-165 pertaining to our outdoor warning sirens. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. And we will now have third reading of 2011-165.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Meyer Electric Company, Incorporated, for the purchase and installation of community outdoor warning sirens.
Dr. Pope, do you have any, I know you obviously brought this up, comments, sir?
The department has worked on this project for some time, and with the caveat that legal has its concerns, I believe that anything we could do to expedite the contractor's mobilization of this project and move it forward faster would be in the interest of our citizens, considering obviously it's not going to be ready for this storm season, but the sooner we get it going, the better.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other questions of staff or chief? Seeing none, I feel you're ready to vote. Roll call, please.
Carroll.
Aye.
Kuhn. Aye. Lubert.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Schulte.
Aye.
Scribner.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Bray.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on, we'll have a first reading of Bill 2011-166.
An ordinance amending Chapter 25, Planning and Development of the Code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by creating a new Article 6 public art program.
Tell us more is Gail Strope.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance establishes a public art policy as proposed by the Cultural Arts Commission. Ms. Kinchlow was here earlier this evening to talk about this policy. It establishes a footprint for the installation and maintenance of art projects throughout the city. It does not obligate the city to fund any new projects. There was a request at the Brown Bagel, the agenda meeting this past Thursday, to change the terminology from public art program to public art policy, and we are planning on presenting that at the next council meeting along with any other changes that the council members may have. This has gone through the administration committee, and staff does recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions of Gail or comments? Gail, thank you. Moving on to bills pending. We will have third reading of 2011-155.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Cole County regarding services at the Jefferson City Animal Shelter.
Mr. Hilpert, tell us more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the agreement with Cole County, whereby they would pay us $300,000 for their cost in the construction of the animal shelter, which comes out of their sales tax. In addition, they'll pay us $100,000 a year, and that'll go up by the CPIU each year. In exchange for that, we'll take any animals from Cole County residents that they can bring in, and in addition, any animals from the Cole County Animal Control. The agreement's for 5 years, and thereafter it's year to year. And we can, if the shelter reaches 80% capacity, we can turn down any other animals from Cole County residents, but we would continue to make it a priority to take the Cole County Animal Control animals.
Okay. Any questions at this time for Mr. Hilpert? Seeing none, comment and deliberation, if I can say it.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, I'd just like to say I didn't realize how busy Mr. Harvey was in his role as chairman of public
Yeah, Harvey missed a big night.
I don't think I've ever had this much to say in any meeting. No, as we discussed in the pre-meeting, I would like to offer an amendment to this particular bill, 2011-155, and it would be to add a new section under Section 1 item C, that one additional obligation of the city to the county would be that the city shall provide to the county monthly reports as to the operation of the animal shelter. And it would be consistent with the Schedule A of the contract itself. That easily provides the data that would be moved from the city to the county, because that's the schedule of the services that the city does provide the county.
Dr. Pope, is this your written amendment?
Yes.
Okay, as printed. I think everyone else has a copy.
Right.
Okay.
We handed them out.
So it's a motion to amend?
Yes. I
Okay.
would move that we amend that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Councilman Bray. Discussion on the amendment. Councilman Scrivener.
As we debated, I guess, in our pre-meeting the other day, or in our Brown Bagel meeting, I respect the intent. I think the reporting is a needed thing. I think it's great that we get that out in front of the public and raise awareness of just how many animals are handled through our shelter, and that be heightened awareness is a good thing. I think we have a danger that if we once this shelter is built and operating, it'll be easy to just kind of put it out of our mind, and the next thing we know, it'll be full, and we're going to have to be expanding it. And so I think the idea behind the reporting is great. I just don't feel like it has to be a part of this contract. I think that, as I stated the other day, I feel that we can accomplish the same thing simply by instructing staff that we want these reports to be made. I know that lasts as long as one council, but I feel like that there would be no incentive or no reason for that reporting to change. I mean, once you're making a report, they're rather simple to have. So as often as we agree on things, Dr. Pope, on this one, I'm going to disagree with you and say that this is not something that needs to be added to the contract.
Okay. Other discussion. Dr. Pope.
My only question would be to that, I don't recall, although you could point it out to me, I don't recall ever being presented a contract for its approval that there were not reporting requirements. All of the contracts that we have with our Public Works Department, all of the contracts that you deal with at Public Works, and there are reporting mechanisms, and they're then filed, and they're made a part of the public record. And I understand in the 2 years that I wasn't on the council, in between, there was a period of time when these reports were in the council packets on a regular basis. And so from council to council, or administrator to administrator, or whatever, now that's something we could ask for, but this is an opportunity for the county to have these. And of course, all of our constituents in the 3rd Ward are county residents, and so we do wear both hats for them. The commissioners wear one hat, we wear both hats, and I feel like we owe our county residents in the 3rd Ward these numbers, and I think they should be readily available. They are in the contract. The services we provide, they're in the contract that we will provide them. However, there was not a clause, which is what C is all about, that they be reported. So that was my thinking. And we can agreeably disagree.
There's no time limit here. Councilman Scrivener.
We will always agreeably disagree when we disagree. You know, I can't argue at all against the idea of doing the reporting. The only issue in my mind is that when you say that you've never seen a contract where there isn't some reporting requirement, I dare say you've never seen a contract where one party imposed that requirement to report on themselves to an entity that hasn't asked to be reported to, and who could care less whether we report.
For our county partner, I'm sorry.
I understand, and
not
I
to
don't
be
want
a,
you know, it's not something to spend a lot of time arguing over one way or the other, I guess. But I just think that we can do the same thing by just asking or through a resolution or what have you. And I realize they last one council, but maybe this won't be important to the next council. If it's not important to them and they want to rescind that requirement, then they ought to have the right to do that. This doesn't have to be a part of the contract in my mind, and that's the last word I'll say on it.
Can I just get one more?
yes, sir.
And that is, you brought to light the interesting fact, and that is that in negotiating this contract, the other side was not interested in the numbers being reported. I find that puzzling. I made the question when this was introduced, what about if the basis for this contract, which is not a counted contract, it's a set contract, if by chance new leash laws were enacted within the county and we had alternate numbers, we wouldn't even have a reported baseline. And then 2 or 3 days later, there was a discussion on the front page of the paper that there was discussion going on about leash laws in the county. And so I think these numbers being transparent and public are quite important for both sides.
Okay. Next, Councilman Bray.
I supported the amendment simply because it seems like a reasonable request, and I think the information would be valuable. That's all.
I was going to say Councilman Nicholas, but we haven't got to that point yet. Nathan.
And never will. I just want to make a suggestion that if I understand correctly, the purpose of the amendment is not to provide information to the county, who apparently doesn't want it, but to the public, who I assume does want it. And you want to make sure that that continues on, and so you're sticking it in the contract. I wonder if we couldn't do that by ordinance and create an ordinance that says it, because the problem is, in my mind, sending a report to the county does not make that readily, in your words, readily accessible to the public. In fact, probably it's moving in the opposite direction. If you want to make it readily accessible to the public, let's post it on our website. That way people can download it and get it for free, as opposed to having to go up to the county, battle through their procedures, and then still have to pay for it.
Or you could do both. Yeah. Personally, I like the idea as the mayor that people would know the types of animals that we're getting and how their tax dollars are being spent to care for those animals. And I don't think a report is asking too much to do that. So, okay, that's just my 2 cents. Council debate. Sean? Carrie?
I'll support the amendment, and then I would suggest that Nathan could draft an ordinance that would serve the purpose of what Nathan just brought to our attention too. Thanks.
So they have to go through the committee process then. So, okay, thanks, Carrie. Any other comments or debate? Councilman Lubert.
I think it's important, whatever we do, that we don't create a separate report that we file with the county, something that we are putting together anyway.
Okay. Any other comments?
The contract essentially generates the report in Schedule A. We just don't say anywhere in the contract what we're going to do with the results of Schedule A.
Okay.
Just put in a number beside every one of those 14 items every month, and you'd have your report.
All right. Any other debate? Seeing none at this time, I feel you're ready to vote on the amendment, which we will, just for tonight, call the Pope Amendment. Roll call, please.
Kuhn,
Aye.
Lubert,
Aye.
Pope,
Aye.
Schulte,
Aye.
Scrivener,
No.
Weber,
Aye.
Bray,
Aye.
Carroll.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We will now be discussing Bill 2011-155 as amended. Discussion. Dr. Pope.
I would just like to say, I think this is a great situation that the city and the county have cooperated on to come to terms and develop this contract. It's been how long in the making?
2 years.
2 years.
I was going to ask Captain Sonova, when might what's the opening look like? It's been a little while since I've been over there to look at it myself.
I was over there about 2 weeks ago. They're ahead of schedule because of the weather. The winter's been kind to the builders. We're anticipating a June 3rd, barring any unforeseen problems.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Any other debate or comment on 2011-155 as amended? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Lubert,
Aye.
Pope,
Aye.
Schulte,
Aye.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Bray,
Aye.
Carroll,
Aye.
Kuhn,
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we'll have third reading of 2011-156.
an ordinance amending the code of the city of Jefferson, Missouri pertaining to the Neighborhood Improvement Program.
Tell us more, Drew Hilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an update to the Neighborhood Improvement Program. It was spurned there, or brought about by the number of different neighborhood improvement projects that were brought forward. This petition would streamline the process a bit and say that by March of each year, the projects have to be submitted. The council can then consider them in the budget process altogether. And if they are funded, then we'll build them. And if they're not funded, then they'll be rejected. The parties can come again the next year if they so choose. The new ordinance would require 75% of the people on the block to request the project and 75% to agree to pay up front. It would require a project that's at least a block. The cost would be set by the city administrator each year, which would allow us to either move up or down with project costs. The first year would be $25 a linear foot. If a party fails to prepay, then they would be charged an additional 25%. And any projects that have already been accepted by the council will come in under the old ordinance and the old costs. And that was a Moreland Avenue, basically.
Okay. Questions for Drew first? Seeing none, any comments from the council or debate? Seeing none, I feel you're ready to vote. We'll have a roll call, please.
Pope,
Aye.
Schulte, Scrivener,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Bray,
Aye.
Carroll,
Aye.
Kuhn,
Aye.
Lubert,
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we'll have third reading of 2011-157.
an ordinance of the city of Jefferson, Missouri amending the food code of Jefferson City, Missouri pertaining to mobile food units.
Mr. Hilbert.
This was ordinances brought about primarily G2 Galleries interested in getting into the mobile food cart business, but I don't want to. It's not limited to them. They're just kind of the folks that brought this forward. Their concern was that they couldn't find a parking lot to operate on that was 50,000 square feet or larger. So they proposed to reduce that, brought that forward to the Public Works and Planning Committee. They considered the issue, came up with some precautions they felt would protect the public. And those include that the mobile food unit can operate on a parking lot of any size, but can't block ingress or egress to the parking lot, or fire hydrants, and won't hinder sight lines of vehicles entering or exiting the parking lot. Tables and chairs would not be allowed, and they can't utilize so many parking spaces that it would eliminate the necessary parking that's required under the zoning code. It cannot operate within 1,000 feet of an active parade permit or festival district. any violation of any condition for a mobile food unit would authorize the Director of Planning and Protective Service to eliminate their permit or suspend their permit. Staff feels that the provisions suggested by Public Works and Planning would adequately protect the public and is in favor of this bill.
Drew, I have a question. You said near a parade permit, is that correct?
1,000 feet of an active parade permit or festival district permit.
Does that include if the parade permit person gives them permission?
That was the issue.
Or the festival district, because obviously Thursday Night Live's a big thing here in town. So
what we do on all those type of events are that we essentially lease this or give this power to allow folks in or outside the festival district to the holder of the permit. So the 4th of July folks get to decide who comes in. Festival districts get to decide who comes in. And with the concern of the Public Works Planning Committee, as I understood it, was that you didn't want a food operator who couldn't get permission to come in to set up just outside where they get all the benefits and none of the obligations. So this kind of creates a buffer area of 1,000 feet.
Okay. Any questions of Drew? Any comments or debate on 2011-157? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Schulte,
Aye.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Bray,
Aye.
Carroll,
Aye.
Kuhn,
Aye.
Lubert,
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Motion passes. We've already talked about 158. That passed earlier. Now we'll have third reading of 2011-159.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri declaring certain property to be surplus and authorizing the disposal of said property.
Roger Schwartz.
Thank you, Mayor. We have received 2 new buses, and we have spare buses, and we have determined that we can declare 3 of those as excess to be disposed of, so we're recommending approval to dispose of 3 buses.
Okay. Any questions of Roger? Any comments? Debate on the bill? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Bray,
Aye.
Carroll,
Aye.
Kuhn,
Aye.
Lubert,
Aye.
Pope,
Aye.
Schulte.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have third reading of 2011-160.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri declaring certain property to be surplus and authorizing the disposal of said property.
Mr. Sleeter.
Thank you, Mayor. This bill would authorize washer and dryer to be declared surplus property and be used as trade-in for new equipment.
Point of information, where's the washer and dryer at now? Okay. Any debate or questions of staff? Seeing no debate, roll call, please.
Weber. Aye. Bray.
Aye.
Carroll.
Aye.
Kuhn.
Aye.
Lubert.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Schulte.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on the informal calendar, we have 2011-135. Drew.
I believe if Councilman Kuhn would take that off the informal calendar, we're ready to discuss it.
I'd love to take that off the informal calendar.
Drew.
Very good.
Thanks for pointing him out. I forgot that part.
We finally have an agreement to present to you with St. Martin's, and as you'll recall, the issue, there are a couple of issues. One is that St. Martin's had kind of started to creep towards us with their annexations, and secondly, it kind of brought forward the issue of their most favored nation status with regards to sewer services. The folks that live within St. Martin's pay the same rate as the city currently. So we kind of brought those 2 issues to St. Martin's and said that we needed to work something out. The current agreement whereby they get the same city rate, that expires in 2 years, and so it seemed like an appropriate time to discuss that anyway. So what this agreement does is it provides a boundary line, and you can see where the boundary line is. This is a little bit larger map than you saw previously, so it kind of gives you a better idea how it falls. And you can see that there's just a piece of Binder Park that's to the left, as I'm looking at it, or to the west, and then some of St. Martin's that's to the east of the boundary line. The agreement says that we would not contest any annexation that they've already completed east of the boundary line, and they would not contest our adding in that part of Binder Park should we ever get to it. In exchange for the boundary line agreement, no, go ahead, Greg. The second map is that St. Martin's has requested to fill in a couple of holes that they've got on our side of the boundary line, and those are highlighted. And essentially what that does is it kind of takes out the holes that they've got. We've got really no chance of ever annexing those spots, so it didn't seem to staff to be particularly offensive that they could fill in their holes. So we didn't have any opposition to that. And Greg, if you can go to the next map. And this is the Wren property, which many of you know it came up at something of a stickler. Tippy Wren doesn't want to be annexed into St. Martin's, nor does Schneiders. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. There's a number of Schneiders, so I don't recall his first name. But those two properties are next to each other, and you can see they're fairly well surrounded by St. Martin's. This was kind of the last bone of contention. What's proposed to you is to say that neither party would annex the Schneiders Wren property for 10 years, and thereafter either party could annex it without violating the agreement. So certainly they're contiguous to St. Martin's, and they could annex them after the 10-year period. Otherwise, if Jefferson City annexes that far west, we could theoretically annex that as well. Greg, if you can go to the next slide. This is kind of the bigger picture of it all. You can see where Wren's property kind of sits in context to the areas that they want to annex in. And again, in exchange, the people within the original city, St. Martin's, which is basically everything west of Binder, would continue to pay that city rate. And in fact, if they have some infill, if they build a new subdivision or so, those folks would get the city rate as well. Anything else, whatever's west of or east of the boundary line, plus if they go south or wherever else, those folks would get 2 times the city rate. So it still is better than other folks in the county, but not as good as the current residents of St. Martin's get. We would still be able in the future to assume the bonds. If you all recall that discussion, the city has the ability to take over the whole system, but we'd be responsible for paying the bond. The term of this agreement would be 20 years. We could extend it for 10 years, and thereafter it'd be month to month. And I think I've covered most of it, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions, Drew? Councilman Kuhn.
On that first slide that showed Binder Lake.
Oh, no mic. You have to turn your mic on, sir.
On that first slide that showed Binder Lake, could we go back to that? That little piece of binder that's on the St. Martin side of the boundary.
Right.
Can they annex that?
The agreement would say they would not. The agreement would say they would not, and they would not contest our annexing it.
So because it's on their side, they can't annex it for at least 20 years.
That's correct. For the term of the agreement, that's correct.
Okay. Any other comments? Or I'm sorry, questions of Drew on this bill? Councilman Scrivener.
Actually, I have several questions. If no one interrupts me, I may ask them all.
You have the floor for number 1. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. You made a comment that the current agreement expires in 2 years. If this agreement isn't adopted, what happens in 2 years?
Well, at that point, the city could raise the rates for the folks in St. Martin's to what they charge in the county, which would be 3 times the base rate plus usage.
Okay.
And at that point, we could do that without assuming the bonds.
And what about the requirement in 2 years to, well, let me put it this way. Are we currently maintaining the system that's within St. Martin's property?
Much of it.
Okay. Would we be obligated to maintain that system in 2 years?
What is ours, we would. What is theirs, we would not. So there's some private systems.
Right now, we're maintaining both.
Right now, we're doing both, and that's what their bonding pays for. And that's if we assumed, as I said, if we assumed the bonds, then we'd be responsible for all of it. If in 2 years we do nothing, then we can just put our hands away and still raise the
maintenance.
Correct.
With the bonds go to maintenance. Okay.
Their the bonds that are a part of.
Correct. That they've passed and they paid $13 a month or something to each resident.
Okay. Is there any limit on what? I know you said earlier that it would be the same rate as other people in the county. that, we're actually not obligated to do that, are we?
No, we're not.
But it could be whatever we needed for it to be in order to recover our costs or what have you.
That's correct.
Okay. What's the justification of having St. Martin's people within the city, or within, I guess, everything to the west of that line, have the same rate as people in Jefferson City, and some of them have 2 times as much, and other people in the county pay 3 times as much? What is the rationale behind that difference in those charges?
Well, I can't really speak to what happened 20 years ago, but the theory with this agreement would be that St. Martin's would give us something in return, and that something would be that they would annex no further and give us a chance to get to Binder Park, which is certainly our goal. Now, whether that goal justifies the cost is a policy decision for you to decide.
Okay, and so essentially what we're doing is that in order to establish this line, we are establishing favorable treatment for St. Martin's.
That's correct.
Is that the only way that we can be comfortable that they are not going to aggressively pursue annexing to the east? Or is the fact that this thing expires in 2 years somewhat of a leverage as well?
It could be leverage, certainly. I mean, I suppose certainly that if in 2 years you can raise their rates without hardly a consequence to us, that may keep them in check, and it may not.
Yeah. Has there been discussion that much of the annexation that has already occurred was probably improperly done?
It's certainly our belief that probably everything passed on our side of the boundary line was initially done illegally. They've annexed pieces that weren't contiguous and in the wrong order. What I always caution people is that it's a lot easier for them to do it again. So if we sued them, we probably could win, and it could take a while, but they could come back and do it right probably without too much trouble.
And
I have a follow-up
Sure.
to that, Drew. Are you saying that they could go back and what we appear to think was wrong as far as annexation, okay? You're saying that you think they could go back and quickly fix that and keep marching towards Binder if that's what they chose to do?
I think that's correct.
Okay. Councilman Scribner?
okay, so I guess the question is, would it be in the best interest of Jefferson City to go into, I mean, obviously that's our question, is it in our best interest to enter into a favorable lease agreement for another 20 or 20 plus years in order to have, I guess, boundary peace? I know that we've often lamented the agreement as it currently is, and the fact that some past council had entered into that agreement, and we've questioned many times as to why they might have done that, and because it seemed like it was terribly favorable to a small community, and so I guess my concern is that maybe we're getting ready to do that again for another 20 years, and maybe future councils will be lamenting the fact that we chose to do this as well. Let me see, I think I have some other questions, but, you've already answered that it's 3 times for people that don't live within that area. So is that everyone who's to the right of that line then would pay 3 times?
Well, under this agreement, it would be 2 times.
I'm sorry?
It would actually be 2 times for anyone in current St. Martin's. As you look at it up there, those folks get the same rate.
Within the city limits currently?
Right.
Anything that is beige colored?
Well, I should say a little better. On the left side where you kind of see the where it doesn't flagpole off, that was all old St. Martin's, and those folks get same as city rate. Yeah, as Greg's kind of pointing it out, then on the kind of the flagpole then on, they get 2 times.
Within that city limits?
They still get, they get city rate.
Okay.
And anyone to the north, south, east, or west of that's going to pay 2 times once they're in the city limits. So it does have the effect that if they annex south or west, those folks would actually get a better rate than they do now.
Okay, so anyone who's now to the right of that line would be 2 times.
Right.
And then if they came south, or if they came over to the line where it's white now, those people would be 2 times.
That's correct.
Okay. And anyone else that's not within that area and not within St. Martin's would be 3 times.
Correct.
Okay, so one of the things that we've lamented is that we had set up an incentive which actually encouraged people to annex into St. Martin's rather than into Jefferson City, because we offered favorable treatment on the sewer rates. I guess we're not doing that because we're establishing a line, so there's really, we're not going to see that happen to the east of that line.
It would be favorable for the folks that we're never going to ever be able to annex in. It would not have the same effect or much of an effect on our side of the line.
And I guess one last point here, on the properties that we have excluded for 10 years, the Schneiders and the Wren property, I don't know why we're bothering to exclude that for 10 years, because it'll never be contiguous to Jefferson City because there's a line that keeps us from ever getting to it. So why keep them from annexing it?
We could get to it if you annex the highway. It would be as contiguous as much of St. Martin's is to it.
It'd be a lot like some of the others we've seen, right?
But very, very difficult, and I find it highly unlikely. And the reason it was excluded is Mr. Wren wanted to be excluded, as did Mr. Schneiders, and this was as far as St. Martin's would commit to, at least this time, that they would only exclude it for 10 years.
I mean, St. Martin's could very easily disrupt any plan to get to them by coming south of the highway and annexing the highway. So now they have them surrounded, so they've blocked any. I mean, in fact, we can't go to the west of that line anyway. So there's no way to even annex the highway to the west of that.
Well, it would be ever so slightly contiguous at the point of the highway up to the Schneiders property.
Now we're doing what St. Martin's did.
We're doing what St. Martin's did.
Some of their
yes.
annexations.
It would look just like the St. Martin's tracks look, where they're kind of connected at a point.
Well, I don't think we want to get into that. Okay, thank you, Drew.
Okay, any other comments over here? Seeing none. Comments or questions to staff? Councilman Weber.
Does St. Martin's have a post office or official St. Martin's address, or is it considered Jefferson City?
No, they actually have their own. Well, actually, I don't know. They don't?
Nathan says they're Jefferson City, so does Phyllis. Anyone else know?
Okay.
For postal purposes, it's Jefferson City. They actually have their own, though, City Hall.
Okay. Any other debate? Any other comment or questions right now as staff? Dr. Pope. Dr. Pope, your mic, please.
I suppose this is a question for legal, but for instance, in this document between the parties, the legal of each entity, and then we get to this section 6. How did these individuals enter into the negotiations of Jefferson City and the city of St. Martin's? I mean, this would be a kind of clause that I'm sure the 2 hotels out west would like to have. I mean,
that's probably true.
This just looks, I don't know who we're serving here. Tell me, how do 2 private property owners get into a thing like this between 2 municipalities, and how are we to explain this to the voters?
Well, the answer is that they requested to be excluded, and I guess I defer to Nathan on who they called, because I'm not entirely sure, but at some point it became clear to me that if we could exclude Wren and Schneiders, we should, and thus I went forward and did.
It was in our interest.
Well, certainly if we could get the Wren property someday, that would be in our interest. It's just feasibly very difficult. Mr. Wren wants to be in Jefferson City, as I understand it, and doesn't want to be in St. Martin's, but again, I can't see how we could really ever do it.
Okay. Dr. Pope, anything else?
No, it's puzzling, but I'm puzzled about what.
Was your mic on there?
Yeah.
What are those blue properties now? Are those county? Are those
Yeah.
city? I
They're-
know they're not our city, but
Those are just properties that have not been annexed into St. Martin, so they're just in Cole County outside the corporate limits of anything.
are those the ones that they had said in order to clean things up they wanted to annex?
They wanted to potentially be able to annex. What had happened is these were all voluntary, and those folks didn't voluntarily come in. I'm assuming that they're hoping someday that they will voluntarily want to come in.
So are those properties immediately to the east of the Ren Schneiders property?
Yes.
So
Yep,
if
there's
we,
a picture.
So if we allow those annexations to take place, we are in effect precluding the possibility of us ever. I mean, if we're exempting Schneiders and Ren, and I know I'm one who had brought up Ren when we first started talking about this, because I thought at least that I recalled that Ren had hoped that someday they would be able to be a part of the city. So I would think that I would feel more comfortable, if I can feel comfortable with this agreement, I would feel more comfortable if we didn't allow that annexation of those blue properties to occur. Because those blue properties, or does St. Martin's come down below, run along 50 Highway?
Yeah, if you look at the yellow shaded area, that's all St. Martin's.
That's already all St. Martin's. So
So
we're already pretty
they're
much
surrounded.
precluded.
They're either surrounded by St. Martin's or by the Wren property.
Okay, all right.
So,
we
yeah, I
couldn't-
mean,
we couldn't
ideally,
get to any of them anyway.
There's no way we could ever get to those guys.
Okay, it is what it is.
Okay, at this point in time, we'll entertain a 5-minute recess. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
It's officially on the informal calendar. Okay, moving on to public hearings. We have a public hearing tonight on 999